Greetings, young vampire. You find me in fantastic mood. The information that you have shared with me has turned out to be of great and fabulous use, probably even more than you could conceive, as I assume my information will be to you when you eventually leave. Anyway, I thought today we could talk about the heretical dharmas. The different ones, the unusual ones, the illegal ones. Now, I should make a point that I admire any Kuei-Jin who dares to tread upon such a path. It is so few attain enlightenment, and there are so few ways of getting it. It is such great value that if another path is discovered, or if another path is perfected, I just won't do it myself, because it's kind of stupid to step out from beyond what's been proven to work and try and, well, anyway, as I say, more congratulations to those who do dare, but I prefer to stick with the dharmas that have several thousand years of a certain rate of success, rather than the ones that have, well, that sound nice. But let's start. The first one, let's start with a history lesson. The Way of 10,000 Screams. A dharma that draws heavily upon the Po, like the Howl of the Demon Tiger does. What is this? It's an ancient one. It was pre-Zu. It's pre the paths. It was based on a quite simple estimation or calculation that if heaven had transformed the heroes of old into the Kuei-Jin now, then it must have done this for a purpose. So the Kuei-Jins had a new purpose. They were demons, or messengers of demons. They were there to serve the Yama kings, to bring the role of destruction into the world and let it be reborn anew. This reasonable proposition turned out to be a bit of a miscalculation, and when Zu returned with the true paths, the true dharmas, they were eventually hunted to extinction. Hence, I found a few ancient texts, and I don't think there's much to be gained there. But let's move on. Now, can you tell me much about the vampire Salot? No? I probably made the mistake that any two vampires must know each other, but I thought he had a certain reputation. But we know him in the Kuei-Jin history. Zaolat. Zaolat the betrayer, Zaolat the failure. You always add an epithet like that. But why would you add an epithet? Like, for instance, a failure. If someone's really a failure, you might say he's a failure, and then you move on. There's no point in obsessing about it. There's no point of repeating that he's a failure for thousands and thousands of years to every new generation. That's just failure is not exciting enough to get that kind of ire. And the betrayer, what did he betray? What? Again, no story, just a lot of vindictiveness. My personal theory, just a thought, is that he found something. He studied with Zu. He found a sixth path, a sixth dharma, one that maybe, I think you call Golconda is your name for it. So, in my view, Zaolat found the sixth path and brought it back to you Western vampires, you kindreds of the West. And how's that dharma working out for you? Yes, I'm not willing to sort of really try it until I'm actually sure that it has a certain success rate, and the evidence is scanty. Anyway, let's move on to a third dharma, a proper existing Kuei-Jin dharma. The spirit of the living earth. It combines two virtues. Most dharmas are affiliated with one of the four Kuei-Jin virtues, Han, Po, Yin or Yang. This is Yin and Yang together. It's a, well, should we just say traditionalist ritual? I've read some anthropologists, they're dealing with certain primitive tribes, and barring the entertainment value, the taboos and the behaviours there remind me quite strongly of the path of the living earth. You relate with spirits all over the world. Well, everyone knows that spirits are all over the place, but you don't generally get upset about it or change your behaviour. But they obsess about them, they talk with them, they negotiate with them, they make contracts, they honour them. It's all a sort of, well, old-fashioned. And, well, quaint. It's quaint. It's adorable when a shaman, because that just fits so perfectly, a shaman of this order comes in, tells us about this or that duty, moves a stone around certain amounts of millimeters, and warns us against ever putting it back into place, lets this destruction rain upon us, and all that kind of stuff. I think it works. There is some evidence of bodhisattvas of the orders in there, but it kind of feels like a throwback. It kind of feels that, well, the Kuei-Jin that follow it are, they're more they've made the old ways that they knew into something to sustain them in death. And though you can maybe get bodhisattvas out that, I don't know if this is a true path to enlightenment. But let's move on to something a bit more exciting. The path of the gods, based on the twin discipline of Han, the higher soul, and Po, the lower soul. Like the Way of Thousand Screams, they start from an observation, and that is that we live a cursed existence, but it's so bloody great in so many ways. To feed upon chi, to feed upon blood in your case, to just leap these walls, smash through them, rechange our bodies, basically all the wild powers that flow through us. And they basically said, yeah, what does this tell us? It tells us we are more than we were when we were in life. We are, if not gods, but on the way to being gods. Again, you can't fault the logic. I do tend to think of all the negative, the endearing hunger, and the pain of every night and of every day as just being side effects that'll be transcended as they focus on themselves, on their own greatness, and on gathering believers to pray to them, and they derive strength from these beliefs, from these prayers. They're heretical mainly because they're just so insufferably arrogant. You can't begin to form a society with people who are trying to be gods all the time. So I might as well shunt them off to their own private communes where they can't interfere with others or with each other, and just let them pray and feed on their disciples in peace. But now we get to a rather tragic path now, the Flame of the Rising Phoenix. It's based upon Han, the higher soul, and Yang, the sort of principle of action and strength, and they are like some extreme version of the thrashing dragon. They want to get back to mortality, essentially, behave as if they were mortals. Their argument is that they may have taken a second breath, but they're the same person that they were before. They have the same debts to carry out, the same duties, the same relations, the same families. And they attempt to live that life, to live as humans once more. And they fail. They always fail. They always get to a certain point and it ends in tragedy, and more often than not they vanish. And so it's unlike some of the other heretical dharmas, which at least have some chance of success, this one has absolutely no chance of getting anywhere. There are no bodhisattvas or ancestors of them. At least that's the official story. But I like to think of these things a bit more than maybe some. And if you have a path where the Kuei-Jin's goal is to ultimately be human, and if as they progress the Kuei-Jin vanishes, it suggests something. When you hear that a Kuei-Jin has vanished and you go and have a look, you rarely check around the chattel, the humans around, to see if any of them might seem strangely familiar. So, just a slight theory of mine, but maybe they've succeeded. But anyway, humanity, not an interesting goal. Enlightenment is far more worthy of our kind. And now the sixth of the heretical dharmas, the Tempest of inner focus. Very misnamed because it doesn't get tempestuous about anything. It is affiliated with balance, the balance between all different things. But unlike the 1,000 centipedes, which we shall talk about in due course, this one is about not taking risks. If something goes off in one direction, you balance it out in the other direction. Acts of cruelty balanced by acts of kindness. Wild passion with contemplation. And it's all about not taking risks, not getting too far from the core of your being. It might lead to enlightenment, but it is so boring and so slow. I wasted, 200 years or so on it, and got practically nowhere. Yeah, so anyone who wants that path of enlightenment is really welcome to it. You may achieve enlightenment after the wheel of ages has turned, the Yama Kings have been defeated, the sun itself is burnt out, and the universe has frozen. Then you might be within sight of enlightenment. The last of the heretical dharmas is definitely heretical. It is the scorpion eaters. They are despised because they feed upon corrupted chi and seek to spread their corruption. They are not quite Akuma, the servants of the Yama Kings, the servants of those who tortured us in hell, but they are pretty close. They seek to, not achieve enlightenment, they seek to just avoid attention, hide, last out the sixth age that is soon upon us, hope that, that they feed on tainted chi and do vaguely demonic stuff, and maybe the real demons will just sort of look away and not bother them. It's a very pointless kind of existence. Lots of young Japanese Kuei-Jin that live close to the Nagasaki and Hiroshima impact points follow it more out of necessity than enjoyment. It's utterly pointless as an organized dharma, just because how can you organize a group that spends most of their time fighting each other? And it has no dharmic progression. You don't get better. You just, stay. It keeps you away from feeding on flesh, I suppose. And again, that is the official story, and there are no higher levels in this Dharma. But again, I've been thinking, if this had a dharmic progression, what would you expect as you moved up it? An entire Dharma dedicated to hiding. Well, are you starting to see? You'd expect them to vanish entirely. So, I won't completely dismiss the interesting idea that there are ancient, powerful Kuei-Jin feeding only upon tainted qi and undetectable to all others, waiting in the darkness for the world to change and their time to come again. On this cheerful thought, I leave you, bid you good day and pleasant dreams.